All right. Ready to dive into the art of the deal?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
This book by, well, Donald Trump, it's quite a ride,
Yeah.
Part memoir, part business advice, but like all Trump.
Definitely a product of its time.
Yeah, we're going to break down those tactics he's always talking about, the stories too.
And see what we can actually learn.
Exactly, because let's be real, not all of us are trying to, build $1 billion empire.
Right. Though it's fascinating to peek behind the curtain.
Totally. It's important to remember when this came out, right? Like way back in 1987.
Yeah, peak pre-politics Trump.
The booming 80s in New York real estate, whole different scene.
It was a wild time.
And for this deep dive, we're using Trump's own narration, the audiobook, kind of.
You can find it on YouTube, actually.
Yeah, so everyone can listen along if they want. Okay, tactic number 1, right out the gate, use your leverage. Trump is huge E on this.
Never seemed desperate. That's his thing.
He says the other side, they can, smell blood if you're desperate. Bad news.
Makes sense, in a way. You don't want to show weakness in a negotiation.
Right. And it's interesting how Trump defines leverage. It's not just money or power like you'd think.
No, it's more about creating the situation, becoming the solution to their problems.
Yeah. Like the story of the Commodore Hotel, this beat-up place, rough part of town.
Not exactly prime real estate.
He gets the owners to announce their closing publicly. Big deal.
Boom. Suddenly it's the city's problem.
And who comes in looking like a hero with the solution?
Classic negotiation tactic. You create that sense of urgency, then you're the answer everyone wants.
But didn't the city, actually benefit from the Commodore being fixed up?
That's the thing. Even a seemingly straightforward deal has layers.
So it's okay if everyone wins, even if there's some, let's say, creative maneuvering going on.
That's a good question. It raises ethical considerations, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And he really pushed it with the West Side Rail Yards, that whole deal.
Massive project.
And at that point, he didn't have much experience with anything that big.
But he sold himself on pure energy ambition.
Yeah. It's like leverage isn't always about what you have, Evie. It's what you project.
Convincing the other side you're the right person, even if you have to embellish.
Okay, so that leads perfectly into tactic 2. Maximize your options. Trump is all about having, multiple paths.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Don't be reliant on just one deal. He was juggling a bunch at once.
Diversification, key principle, not just in real estate, but in business overall.
It's like building a stock portfolio. You wouldn't put everything into one company.
Exactly. Spread it out, reduce risk, increase your chances of success.
So you're saying this maximize your options thing applies to my career, investments, even.
Your dating life. Sure, why not?
Wow. Okay, so backup plan, less risk, and you're in a better spot to negotiate.
You're not desperate for that one outcome. Gives you leverage.
That makes a lot of sense. Like when he was working on the West Side Yards, Andy the Commodore at the same time.
He used each project to boost the other.
It's like, hey, look how busy I am with big things. Clearly, I can handle this big thing, too.
A bold strategy. And it ties right into tactic number 3, all about that name recognition.
Know the value of your name, and I think the unspoken part is, and promote the hell out of it.
Branding is huge, especially in real estate.
Oh, yeah. Trump was a master at that, even back then, before the Donald,
The Trump Organization, he made it sound so grand.
Even when it was basically, him and a few other guys?
He knew how to make it sound impressive.
And he wasn't afraid to use that name. Remember that time he tried to get the New York City Convention Center named after his family?
He was willing to waive his entire development fee for that.
Bold move. Didn't work out, though.
It highlights how powerful a name can be. Opens doors, creates opportunities.
Changes how people see you and your work, for sure.
Yeah.
But is there a risk? Too much focus on the brand, not enough on the actual work?
That's a fascinating question. Finding that balance, it's tricky.
Okay, buckle up for tactic 4. This is pure Trump. Fight back, even if it costs you.
Sometimes.
Yeah, he does not back down easy, especially legal battles.
Tenacious, for sure. Look at that fight with the tenants at 100 Central Park South. Years it went on.
They were fighting his development plans, and he just dug in.
Didn't that cost him a ton, though? Time and money.
Right. Isn't it sometimes better to just walk away, even if you think you're right?
That's the dilemma. When to fight, when to fold. Tough call.
This is where I want our listeners to think, imagine you're Trump. Tough legal battle, it's dragging on, costing you.
What do? Fight or walk away?
Mm-hmm.
What factors help you decide?
Hold that thought. We're going to get into a tactic that seems to contradict this whole fight back thing.
Trump, he's full of surprises.
Yeah, he's like, fight back, but then also walk away.
It's Tactic 5, sometimes you walk away. Or, how he puts it, pivot to something bigger.
So knowing when a deal is just not working anymore.
Right. Having the discipline to cut your losses.
See, that's what I don't get. It seems so opposite, his never back down thing.
It's about strategy. The long game.
Okay.
Remember that whole West Side Yards thing?
Yeah,
Got the option, let it expire.
I remember that.
Years later, buys the whole thing. Still at a good price.
So it's like he was waiting for the right moment.
Exactly. Like that Australian casino bid, he just bailed.
Seemed impulsive at the time.
But probably a smart move looking back.
The whole casino world was changing.
Sometimes walking away from one thing puts you in a better position later.
So you're saying walking away can make you stronger.
It's counterintuitive, but yeah.
I always thought it was like, dig in, never give an inch.
Sometimes that's right, sure. But you gotta be adaptable too.
Okay, starting to see how these tactics, they all kind of connect.
Like a puzzle.
Yeah, but what about the stories behind them, like the actual deals?
Oh, his book is full of them. Take the Grand Hyatt, for example. Started as the Commodore, remember?
That old place needed a total makeover.
But Trump, he didn't just want to renovate.
He wanted to make it something totally new.
And people, they thought he was nuts.
Like the old facade. Blend in with the neighborhood.
But he had a different vision.
Yeah, 4 walls of mirrors, that's what he called it.
Sleek, modern, all glass.
The preservationists, they were furious.
But it was a huge success.
And kind of funny, the glass, it ended up reflecting all the old landmarks anyway.
Almost like he planned it.
That's Trump. Bold vision, even when it's controversial.
Speaking of iconic buildings, we got to talk about Trump Tower.
Ah, yeah, right on Fifth Avenue. He wanted the most luxurious building in the city.
But he needed air rights from other buildings, which, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like unused development rights above a building.
Complicated stuff.
Zoning regulations. He had to convince the city it would actually benefit them.
And somehow he did it.
They negotiated with Tiffany & Co.,
Yeah.
worked with the city to build that public atrium.
He even, worked the Bonwit Teller store into his plans.
Trump, he finds a way to make his projects align with what other powerful people want.
It's not just about him winning, it's about everyone, kinda.
Finding those mutually beneficial outcomes.
But he can also play hardball, like that battle with the tenants at 100 Central Park South.
Oh yeah, that was a mess.
Accusations flying back and forth.
Shows how even the best real estate can have human complications.
Ethical considerations, too.
He eventually settled with them.
But by then, the property value had gone way up.
The delays actually helped him.
It's wild. Sometimes setbacks work out in your favor, you know?
It's true. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Talk about Trump outside of real estate. Casinos, sports.
He went big in those worlds.
Buying the Hilton Casino in Atlantic City, huge gamble.
Record price, took on so much debt.
Everyone thought he was crazy.
But he saw the potential. Thought he could turn it around with his, management style, the marketing.
He rebranded it Trump's Castle.
And it worked. For a while, at least.
Then there was the USFL, his attempt to, rival the NFL. Spring football.
That was ambitious.
He thought he could disrupt the whole system.
Recruited big players, wanted to play in the fall, go head-to-head with the NFL.
Even sued them for antitrust.
David versus Goliath, for sure. But the NFL had way more money, the fan base.
And they won.
The USFL folded. But Trump says he learned from it.
Leverage, picking your battles.
Makes you wonder, what if he'd used those lessons later on? But let's get back to the book itself. The Art of the Deal. It's more than just tips, right?
It's how Trump sees the world, what success means to him, how the game is played. And it's all about winning, coming out on top, even if it means, bending the rules a little.
Yeah, at least that's the vibe you get from the book.
He's all about those gut instincts. Trusts them no matter what anyone says.
Even when the experts are like, maybe not.
Even then.
But is that really a good strategy long term?
I mean, look at his record. Some big wins, some big losses too.
Trump Tower, the casinos early on, those were huge.
But then the USFL, some of those later deals.
Not so much. So is the art of the deal really a blueprint for success?
Or is it just one guy's story?
Yeah.
Very ambitious guy, but...
Controversial too. I guess that's up to each reader to decide.
Right.
So where does that leave us? Listener, we've gone through the tactics, the stories, the good, the bad.
Tried to see what we could apply to our own lives.
But it's your call what you take away from it.
What I find interesting is how Trump defines the deal itself.
Yeah, how
It's
so?
very transactional, like I win, you lose.
Maximize your gains even if someone else gets hurt.
It's a zero-sum game, that's how he sees it,
But doesn't that create a kind of cutthroat world?
where everyone's just out for themselves.
Exactly. Is there another way to do it?
More collaborative, maybe, where everybody wins something.
That's a good point, something Trump's book doesn't really touch on.
It's all about winning for him. But what about the other
The
people?
ones on the other side of the deal. Did they win?
Or were they just playing a different game entirely?
Makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what's the long-term effect of all this?
Not just on business, but on, like, society.
If we're all trying to outsmart each other, what does that do to us?
Can we still trust each other? Work together?
Big questions.
In the end, any deal, any negotiation, it's about more than just winning.
Right. It's about what kind of world we're building, what kind of relationships we want.
What we leave behind. Something to think about, listener.
As you go out there and make your own deals.
Good luck out there.
And that's a wrap on The Art of the Deal. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.
And hey, remember, sometimes the best deal is the one where everyone feels like they won.